Take a deep breath and appreciate what's going on here. The wealthiest person in the world, who spent at least $277 million to elect Donald Trump in a Republican Congress, has now claimed complete ownership of that party.
Bernie Sanders just dropped a bomb, warning everyone that Elon Musk practically owns the Republican Party. When you consider the $277 million Musk casually tossed into helping Trump get elected, it's not hard to see the strings attached. If Trump ends up back in the White House, Musk might as well set up a SpaceX launch pad in the Rose Garden.
Is that after months of negotiations, Senate Democrats and House Republicans reached an agreement called a continuing resolution, which would continue to fund the government for 3 months. Frankly, that agreement was not something that I was all that excited about, but it was better than nothing. And I was prepared and am prepared to vote for it.
And Musk isn't exactly subtle about flexing his influence. One tweet from him, and suddenly an entire political decision gets flipped faster than a politician's stance during campaign season.
We were ready to go. But then, out of nowhere, the wealthiest man in the world, Elon Musk, began tweeting his opposition to this legislation.
So, what's the deal with this tweet, and how does it shake up America? Stick around, because this is the kind of chaos billionaires thrive on. So, I'm talking about the tweet that destroyed months of bipartisan negotiations. Not a casual opinion, not a debate, it was a direct threat.
He told Republicans that if they voted for this proposal, which they had already agreed to do, he would take out his wallet and spend as much money as it took to defeat them in primaries and drive them out of office.
Musk told Republican lawmakers that if they dared vote for the bill, he'd crack open his bottomless wallet and bankroll their primary challengers to kick them out of office. And guess what? They folded like cheap lawn chairs. No debate, no pushback. Just raw billionaire power in action. This wasn't some heated political argument or a passionate plea for change. This was Musk flexing his influence, plain and simple. Republicans had the bill ready to go. It was online, public, and prepped for a vote. But then Musk showed up with his tweet, and suddenly, everything flipped.
What this legislation would do is significantly, or modestly at least, increase funding for community health centers all over this country, which treat about 30 million Americans who are low income or working class.
Now, let's break this down. Bernie Sanders didn't hold back when he called Musk the face of oligarchy. And honestly, he's spot on. Think about it. One guy, a single billionaire, managed to override decisions made by elected officials who are supposed to represent millions of Americans. That's not democracy. That's a billionaire dictatorship with a shiny Tesla logo slapped on top. Bernie nailed it when he said this isn't government for the people anymore. It's government for the billionaire class, by the billionaire class.
There was widespread agreement on this resolution, and it was just about ready to be passed. In fact, the Republicans posted it on their website. We were ready to go.
What makes this even wilder is how Musk built his power. He didn't start with political experience or public service. Nope, he worked the system his way, by shaping public opinion and using platforms like Twitter to push his agenda. Musk loves to call himself a free speech absolutist. But let's be real. His version of free speech seems to mean, I say what I want, and you better fall in line. When Republicans caved, it wasn't because they suddenly believed Musk had all the answers. It was fear. Fear of his wallet, fear of his influence, fear of being crushed under the weight of his financial arsenal.
The wealthiest person in the world, who spent at least $277 million to elect Donald Trump in a Republican Congress, has now claimed complete ownership of that party.
And let's not pretend this is a one-off stunt. Musk has been playing this game for years, quietly building his empire of influence. Remember that $277 million he threw at Trump's election and a Republican Congress? That wasn't charity. That was a strategic investment. Musk didn't stumble into this level of power. He bought it, piece by piece, tweet by tweet, dollar by dollar. And now, he's at a point where one tweet can literally derail the government. Republicans initially backed it, hyping up its benefits like they'd just discovered a cure for political dysfunction. They posted it everywhere, gave it their stamp of approval, and for a hot second, it seemed like bipartisanship wasn't completely dead. The bill addressed real issues: healthcare funding, disaster relief, paychecks for federal employees, basic stuff a functioning government should handle. Everything was set, tied up with a neat little bow, until Elon Musk decided it didn't fit his vibe
of that party. And what he is saying is, hey, Republicans, forget your constituents, forget your constitutional responsibilities. If you don't do what I, Elon Musk, want you to do, you're out of office. And I have the money to do just that.
Overnight, the narrative did a complete 180. Lawmakers who had just been patting themselves on the back for cooperating suddenly backed out faster than a bad Tinder date. It wasn't about their voters or the actual issues anymore. Nope, it was all about Musk's agenda. Let's be real, this wasn't some controversial policy that divided the nation. This was basic governance, keeping the lights on and helping people who desperately needed it. But Musk's tweet turned that bipartisan progress into a political sinkhole, dragging the American public down with it. And let's not act like billionaires messing with politics is some shocking new plot twist. This was textbook billionaire behavior, executed to perfection. Remember the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017? It was sold as a win for the middle class, but turned out to be a massive payday for the ultra-wealthy. That didn't just happen by chance. Billionaires like Charles Koch threw piles of cash at it to protect their bottom line. And now, Musk's following the same playbook, treating democracy like his personal chessboard. Bernie Sanders called it out for what it is: oligarchy with a shiny PR spin. And honestly, he's not wrong.
This is up and up. Government by the billionaire class, for the billionaire class.
What Musk derailed wasn't just a budget, it was help for real people. Take healthcare, for example. The bill would have increased funding for community health centers that serve 30 million low-income Americans. It also aimed to bring young doctors to rural areas where healthcare access is practically a myth. But thanks to Musk, those provisions are now stuck in legislative limbo, leaving millions without the care they need. And if that's not infuriating enough, let's talk about children's cancer research. Yes, kids with cancer. The bill included funding for research initiatives that could lead to life-saving treatments. But now, that money's off the table because Musk decided this wasn't his fight. In a country where drug prices are already astronomical, stalling cancer research is as heartless as it gets.
And very dangerously. And this is the guy, you know, who owns Twitter. As part of his campaign to defeat this resolution, Musk has been spreading an enormous amount of disinformation and outright lies about what is in the bill.
It doesn't stop there. Disaster relief, something that feels more necessary than ever with floods in Kentucky and wildfires in California, was also on the line. Families already devastated by climate disasters rely on federal help to rebuild their lives. Musk's opposition left those families hanging because, apparently, a functioning government isn't his priority. And then there's the WIC program, which provides nutrition assistance to nearly 7 million women and children. Without this bill, those families face the grim reality of going hungry. Let that sink in. Single moms and their kids left scrambling because one billionaire decided to play politics. Oh, and let's not forget the federal employees and military personnel who would have gone unpaid during a government shutdown. We're talking about over 2 million workers, many of whom live paycheck to paycheck. Missing one payday could mean falling behind on rent or struggling to buy groceries. And the troops, the people putting their lives on the line for the country, no paychecks for them either. It's like a slap in the face with a Tesla-branded glove.
He said that this legislation would fund bioweapons labs. Not true. In fact, it provides funds to protect Americans from emerging infectious diseases. He said that the country would be just fine if the government.
Elon Musk didn't just casually oppose the government funding bill. He launched a full-blown disinformation campaign against it. His loudest claim was that the bill included a 40% pay raise for Congress. Reality check? The actual figure was a modest 3.9%, the same raise federal employees were getting. But Musk wasn't interested in facts. This wasn't a math error or some innocent misunderstanding. It was a straight-up lie designed to stir outrage and tank the bill. And guess what? It worked.
Really? Here's what happens if Mr. Musk gets his way and the deal implodes. Funding for kids' cancer research gets cut. At a time when we are already paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, pharmaceutical middlemen will be able to continue to overcharge you for your prescriptions.
Then came his next wild claim. The bill would fund laboratories making bioweapons. Bioweapons. Let that sink in. The reality? The funds were earmarked to combat emerging infectious diseases, a completely legitimate and necessary public health investment. But Musk wasn't aiming for nuance or truth. He was gunning for emotional chaos, throwing out conspiracy-level nonsense to ignite distrust and derail the legislation. Even when policy experts debunked his claims, the damage was already done. His lies spread like wildfire, proving that in the world of social media, a billionaire with a keyboard can outpace facts every time. And speaking of keyboards, Musk's reach isn't just enormous, it's dangerous. He doesn't have to rely on media outlets or influencers to push his narrative because he owns the platform. Twitter, with its 450 million monthly active users, is his personal megaphone. And during the funding bill fiasco, he used it to manipulate public discourse, spreading his lies directly to millions of followers. This isn't just a rich guy with opinions, it's a billionaire weaponizing a global platform to serve his own agenda.
Now let us be very clear. Elon Musk was not elected to be president of the United States. In fact, he was not elected to be dog catcher.
Or Doge catcher.
And by the way, what all of this hoopla is really about, above and beyond everything I'm talking about, is that when Trump and Musk come into power in late January, do you know what their first order of business will be? You think it'll be to fix healthcare? You think it'll be to deal with climate change? Deal with homelessness? Well, if you thought that, you're dead wrong. Their first order of business will be to provide massive tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations. So think about it. At a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, when Musk himself is worth almost $500 billion, what these guys want to do.
What's particularly galling is Musk's whole free speech absolutist shtick. When he bought Twitter, he painted himself as the champion of open dialogue and truth. But what did he do here? He turned Twitter into his propaganda machine, drowning out facts and pushing falsehoods to crush legislation he didn't like. The irony is almost laughable. The guy who claimed to be all about free speech weaponized his platform to silence real debate and manipulate outcomes. This is the oligarchy Bernie Sanders keeps warning about. When billionaires like Musk can hijack the political process, manipulate lawmakers, and spread misinformation unchecked, democracy doesn't stand a chance. Musk's actions during the funding bill weren't just an exercise of power. They were a stark reminder of how fragile the system is when billionaires can buy their way to the top. And if this is where we're at now, it's terrifying to think about what comes next.